I'm a big fan of the roguelike genre. We even have a couple of videos about that very thing on this channel. Okay, there's at least one video, and there's that deck building combat thing, which is at the very least relevant. There's such an influx of indie roguelikes that come out every year that it makes me dizzy, which is why I don't say this lightly. One Step from Eden has the markings of being the indie game of the year. I know it's been like a couple of weeks since the game has come out at this point, and a couple weeks since we even made a video, and this might not even be that long of a video, but you know. Alright, I think it's time to try and back up my claim, even though I like to make bold claims a lot in my video titles, but that's just the way of the YouTube game that we stay losing at. So One Step from Eden is a game developed over, I think, 4 years by one guy, and it's one that wears his influences on his sleeves. If you look at anything about this game for even a microsecond, you'll see that the combat is based on the Megaman Battle Network games. And you know what? I was surprised that more games, or any games for that matter, didn't rip the unique Battle Network combat. Well, there was that one Ninjago game though, that might have done a teensy bit more than just take inspiration. And there might have been other ones, but those were most likely browser games as well, so I barely count it. I'm talking about the indie developers and greater who haven't taken the tried and true formula of taking a game people are nostalgic for that still holds up and making a game inspired by it. Goddamn Stardew Valley made a lot of money. And with Battle Network, there was a nice blend of action and RPG that allowed you to theory craft and formulate strategies. With that said though, the games were pretty easy up until in-game and post-game stuff, so even the likes of younger me was able to kind of just brute force his way to the end. But it's amazing how difficult One Step from Eden is, but I'll circle back to it post-haste, because I have to break down the things I like about this game, and there's an aspect of roguelikes that goes a long way. That's right, I'm talking about theming. And if you guessed that, you must be reading my script, and if so, I will have to ask you not to insult my numerous spoiling mistakes. Writing is hard. But look at some of the quote-unquote best roguelikes, or just your favorite one. It's very likely that there is some strong theming going on that is pretty unique. Something extremely apparent in roguelikes as you have to go through the game over and over again. Theming adds a fresh feeling to a game where you're facing a lot of familiar elements because that's the nature of a roguelike. Binding of Isaac, for example, has the religious visuals going on with a lot of the items, trinkets, etc. tying back to this binding theme, pun intended. Same goes for Gungeon. Everything is gun related, and I mean everything. I'm pretty sure the hearts are just bullets as well. FTL and Dungeon of the Endless have great space theming, and Spelunky is Spelunky, and the list goes on. A lot of the greats have memorable visuals that are tied together to a central theme to give the player something to latch onto outside the gameplay, because you and I both know that roguelites aren't the biggest storytellers, with a few exceptions like Children of Morta and a game I can't talk about yet. So what about One Step from Eden? It's alright. Just alright. Definitely alright. To me, it gives off a feel of a more mature Mega Man game. You have the different environments as you go to the new areas that dictates the enemies you get, but actually, I do like the characters the most if we're talking flavor. They seem to have special interactions with each other, and there's an Undertale situation with the bosses where you can let them live, so of course I put them down like the dogs they are. Past that, there's not much. There's a little blurb about the characters you pick, and the cards you get have flavor text, though nothing that builds the lore. Just a lot of references. So what gives? I built theming up this hard just to say Eden is just alright at it? Well, see, I was playing the long con, and I was further emphasizing how godlike the combat is in the games to the point where it carries everything else. This is the hardest roguelike I've played in terms of mechanical and technical skill. Sure, there are some hard roguelikes, but a lot of the time I feel I fail in terms of knowledge or some BS. In Eden, there isn't a lot that makes me throw out the old Jones like I got JV5'd in Melee. The closest I can think of that matches the type of difficulty in this game is Rogue's Legacy, so if you know what that game is like, you might get an idea. Not only do I have to focus on my reflexes against moves that begin to become bullet helly the farther you get into your run, I have to focus on a lot of information that the game is trying to give me so that I can make an informed decision, but I still have to dodge all the bullet hell nonsense. I'm playing real-time Slate of Spire, where if I don't play a card fast enough, I get punched in the face, which is no different from playing at MTG locals really. But let me explain the combat because I just realized I haven't really explained it. Movement is exactly like Battle Network. You're on a grid divided into two sides, your side and the enemy side. You both are restrained to your side and you move in 4 directions on a grid. Without exception, when an enemy attacks, it'll show where it'll hit, so there's nothing that you won't expect, aka no Jones, you bum. For your character, you get your basic attack, which may or may not cost mana to use, and then you have your deck, which is where 90% of your damage comes from. You get your starting deck, and after every combat encounter, you can choose to add new cards. From there, you can level up and get passives such as gain mana, more mana regen, status effects, and so on and so forth. You can also go to the shop, upgrade some cards, and get rid of cards depending on where you go. And that's one thing I hope to see in the future of the game. Currently, the upgrades lean more towards the general side, so the cards have the same type of upgrades, and I wish we had more specific upgrades like how Spire has. But I know it's a lot of work and it is one dev, so I understand why it is that way. Also, I should mention now, the way that you traverse the world is extremely similar to Spire, where you pick a path and you go down it, so you really have to look ahead and make sure that you're going to the places you want to go. There's no time limit, so there is literally no reason you should go down a path you don't want to. Okay, so you have your deck and you really want to make sure you have the magic word, synergy. Synergy, in my opinion, is the make or break for a lot of roguelikes. It's like the result of your game knowledge and luck to get the things you needed to get a win, and more often than not, it just ends up being a fun run. The Binding of Isaac is a great example because you can get stupid powerful off of synergies. I mean, I can go for days listing all the ways that you dump on Edmund in the game. In this game though, the synergies aren't stupidly overpowered. It's more like card game synergies. A lot of them boil down to building up resources to push out a really strong move, though there are some other ones like buffing structures or destroying tiles and doing shenanigans with it. And this is where a lot of the challenge comes in. The more cards you add, the more information you are adding, which means you have to make a lot of decisions. No spamming here, because that can mean accidentally using a card you wanted to wait on, meaning you have to shuffle it. And if you have shield, say goodbye to half of it, and worst of all, you lose mana. I do have another example of all the information hitting the screen. Oh, wait, I have two. There are several cards that require you to catch something, and sometimes it'll be in the midst of getting attacked, so you have to decide if you want to take the hit and try and catch it, aka I always take the hit. The other is status effects on enemies. For this example, I'll use Frost. You stack it up 3 times and it does burst damage. You really have to keep track so you can know the amount of damage you'll do when you hit that last Frost, and it's really important when you have cards that do stuff when you kill with it. Now that you know about the deck, I get to talk about the enemies, but I'm skipping the regular enemies because who cares about that? It's all about the bosses, and it's my favorite part. Each boss is extremely unique from each other with their own gimmicks. The gunner uses traps, Celica is the ice queen with a mean streak, the shopkeeper sucks, and so on. It's always exciting because they put you to the test, especially before you learn their patterns. And sometimes, depending on your build, it could be way harder or like normal. You could tell there was a lot of thought and care put into these bosses because the way they interact with the grids is really cool. My favorite example is Violet, who is also my favorite boss to fight. She has a move that is unblockable, and the only way to not take damage is by feeling the rhythm like it's Crypto the Necro Dancer and follow the pattern placed on your side of the grid to the beat of the song that's playing. I love everything about it, and it's really the tip of the iceberg because each boss does sick shit, except maybe Celica, the bozo. I will say though, every boss is a great kill shot. One thing that might not come off well in the video is how fast the game truly is. There were a lot of times where I got swept into the situation or was in a high pressure fight and I didn't take the time to figure out where a move hits or what was left in the deck, leading to a lot of misplays, just like accidentally murking the hostage. And as I said before, there's no time limit, so as long as you're good at dodging, it's usually a good idea to find a place to take stock. So at the end of the day, all this comes together to create an extremely challenging game that in turn becomes extremely satisfying as you stick with it and get better. And isn't that the fun of hard games? Persevering and getting good? And I didn't quite get that feeling to this extent in other roguelites, especially ones this year. Which does lead me to the super giant elephant in the room, Hades. I'll level with you. I have a lot of fun with Hades. It really draws me back in with its focus on a thing that most roguelikes don't. Story and characters. Meg's voice makes me feel a type of way, and if there was a roguelike game of the year voted by game journals, Hades would probably win it. But here's the thing, it's the polish that puts Hades up in that category. Sure, the combat is fun, the synergies can get out of control, but it doesn't provide the immense satisfaction I get from Eden, which might actually be because of the movement and the progression. 3 lives makes things easy peasy, and maybe I'm doing it wrong, but a lot of the time I'm spamming dash and shoot buttons, something you can't really do in Eden. Granted, there's the modifier, but the core issues are still there for me. And as for polish, I have high hopes for Eden. The dev seems devoted and already has added several patches for balance and other such things, and really time will tell what the rest of the year has in store for one step from Eden. Alright, here we are once again at the end of the video. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe because it means a lot. And what do you think of Eden? What's your favorite boss? Is there a roguelike this year I should put on my radar? Let me know in the comments below, I read all of them. And before you get yourself stuck because you broke all the squares around you, have a good day.